Badlands, running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the Republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, the Russians.
Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Saturday Devolution Power Hour. As always on Saturday, I'm joined by Chris Paul. Chris, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. It's good to see that you've nearly adopted my motif.
Almost.
Except you have shiny neon boxes and some bottles.
If those get distracting, can't even point to them right. Let me know because I can turn them off. I turned my desk around today. So this is what's on the other side of the wood stuff that's normally behind me, and need to put something back there. So this is what I went with. We'll see how long it sticks.
You know what's funny?
What?
If I were to turn my desk around, you know what would be there?
Wood shelving.
Basically your set. Yeah.
Nice. We should have coordinated that, man. Well, now we are.
Yeah. One day we will.
I just need a cloth because the lights or whatever, they like bounce off that wall, and I don't like that.
It's not matte enough.
Yeah, I got like the most matte paint you can get. Anyway, whatever. Should be a fun episode tonight, man. I'm excited because we're having Ghost join us for a little bit. We're going to talk about Venezuelan devolution, also known as devolution, I believe. Ghost is onto something, and I think we're going to have a pretty good discussion about it. We'll also probably keep him on while we talk about what's going on in Iran a little bit, maybe some other geopolitical stuff. That should cover the first 3 hours of the show. And then I want to talk about blackpilling. We got ICE in Minneapolis. If we want to get into this, we can, just because on the heels of our discussion a couple of weeks ago with the SCOTUS ruling, I think it's kind of interesting, setting the stage. War Powers Act stuff. We have the New York Times article about Trump's morality that you talked about. That'll be a good one. We have plenty to discuss tonight. So we'll bring Ghost on in a second. I just want to get a quick announcement out there. For those who've been waiting, we finally got tickets on sale for our next GART. You guys heard it here first. The Great American Restoration Tour, Nashville, April 9th through the 12th. Tickets are on sale. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/events. Click on this GART and you can get your tickets. So hope to see you guys there. Ash, I feel like John is in the lobby space of the laser tag space. Do kind of look like I'm playing laser tag. I did get my son a laser tag thing for Christmas.
Laser tag as a kid was the greatest thing in the world.
I would agree. But let's bring Ghost on. Let's not waste any time. We'll get to our sponsors here a little bit later in the show, maybe at the intermission. Ghost, man, how you doing? You're muted. Good start.
Fail. What's up, guys? How are y'all?
Good. How you doing, man?
Just wild week.
You're on the beach and you don't look much tanner.
I know. I think this is the lighting in here, but I know I'm Scottish. What can I say? I don't brown the way that Zach does.
Yeah, you developed a nice pinkish glow though.
Yeah.
Looking good.
Got to burn the bronze, baby. Got to burn the bronze.
I want to get right to it with you because I think this is going to be a really interesting topic, and I am curious what you were feeding us in the chat today. You kind of think there's a little bit of a Venezuelan devolution going on. So why don't you take us back a little bit to pre-Trump operation this last weekend? Maybe give us, as briefly as you can, some context, how you kind of saw this coming already, and then walk us through what you're thinking a little bit, and we'll interrupt you as we go.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I presented the information before, but discovered a Bloomberg article from, I think it was 2023, that interviewed David Boyce, who is a lawyer that was hired in 2017 by Maduro. And as the story goes, Maduro was handed a laptop from hell by a woman, the wife of one of his oil executives. Sounds like she was cheated on by her husband. And she basically said, my husband is betraying you. Here's all the evidence, handed it to him. Boyce told Bloomberg that after reviewing the evidence for a year, he was certain that it was the greatest trove of evidence for an international RICO conspiracy he'd ever seen. And as a result, he filed civil action lawsuits, which were like basically criminal lawsuits, I believe, but in civil court, like criminal allegations in Southern Florida. This would have been March 2018 against 42 of the most powerful oil executives in the world. Those charges were ultimately dropped a year later after Trump sanctioned Maduro and sanctioned PDVSA. the plaintiff in the case was PDVSA. That is the Venezuelan state oil company. However, when they filed those charges originally in 2018 in Southern Florida, they also filed in Switzerland and then tipped off Europol that they filed them. And then Europol took that evidence, went and raided the offices of these commodity asset companies in Switzerland, and then seized more evidence. And then for the past 6-7 years, we've just been seeing all these oil executives from Glencore and other companies being arrested. And I've run it through all the AI, and I've asked, are these related? Here's both PDVSA lawsuit. Here's the arrests. And I can confirm that these guys who are being targeted by these arrests, in these probes all over Europe were also targeted by Maduro and David Boyce in 2018.
So let me stop there for a second, because this Boyce guy, he's from the law firm Boyce Schiller, which is where Hunter Biden used to work.
Correct.
A notable, laptop from hell situation.
Yes.
Chris, what's this on the screen here? This is that Bloomberg article?
That's the Bloomberg article. Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so the context, the theory here is that potentially Maduro has actually been working to get rid of some corruption. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I would say it's worth taking a peek at the Trump post from just this evening that Burning Bright and I were just talking about in our Badlands chat.
Yeah, let me get that pulled up.
Trump is talking about a prison swap coming out of Venezuela. He said, Venezuela has started the process in a big way of releasing their political prisoners. Thank you. I hope those prisoners will remember how lucky they got that the USA came along and did what had to be done. I hope they never forget. If they do, it will not be good for them. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So these are people that Maduro has had in prison, and that they are being negotiated. Their exit is being negotiated with whom? Who's the counterparty here who wants these people released? It's certainly not Maduro or Delcy Rodriguez or the Maduro regime that remains in place, right?
Also,
so I would say the actual enemy that he's
also, who's he threatening here?
I would say he's threatening the actual enemy in that case too. And they probably have people there they want to get out. And so they're negotiating those people's release as part of whatever their next stage is. I always think he's talking to the enemy. I mean, everybody just thinks he's announcing the news or commenting on the fake news and agreeing with them and the rest of it. I think he's talking to the enemy.
Yes. I would agree with that, Chris. And the people that are being released from prison, I'd be interested to get a list of names who these people are.
Yeah.
Because Maduro has been arresting people since 2017. He's been doing sweeping corruption probes. Like every 6 months to 8 months, he arrests people in the government, throws them in prison. He arrests oil officials, oil executives. He even arrested in November 2017, 5 months before they file these charges, these civil action lawsuits in Southern Florida. He arrested 6 American Venezuelan oil executives, dual citizenship oil executives who worked for Citgo. And they sat in prison for 2 years until something really interesting happened. But we'll get to that in a minute.
I think it's important to just think about this for the people in the audience. How it would be reported if and when Donald Trump starts en masse arresting members of the deep state, members of this transnational criminal organization, politicians who were linked to cartel members, et cetera. What happens when Trump starts arresting those people? How does that get reported in other countries around the world? And when it clicks that it would be reported exactly as we are told about Maduro, it's worth then considering that what we're being told about leaders like Maduro. I don't know if he's a good guy or bad guy. It's just an important thought experiment to run, because a lot of what we know about these evil dictators around the world is a fabrication by the same people who tell us Russia collusion and fake elections and fake pandemics and the rest of it.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Same fake news everywhere.
Same fake news.
Ghost, can we fast forward a little bit now to the months leading up to what took place? And I think there was an article that you sent from the Miami Herald I think it was October or November. And it's pretty fascinating because it's talking about the situation we just saw unfold and see unfolding right now. And it talks about what Maduro had to say about it. And I'd like you to go through that article a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I have it shared here on my screen. There we go. All right, so this is October 16th, 2025, Miami Herald.
A little bit.
Yeah, Miami Herald. And so this is a picture of Rick Grenell shaking the hand of Maduro on January 31st, 2025. And in the background there is Jorge Rodriguez. That is the husband of Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the president, the acting president of Venezuela, Maduro's vice president. He is also, I believe, the leader of their legislature. He's the president of their National Assembly. And so they're husband and wife. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this picture, and I believe it explains it in this article, but if it does not have the article, it does explain it, is that back in 2019, Rick Grenell secretly went to Mexico City and met with Jorge Rodriguez, did not tell the State Department, did not tell the National Security Council. This is after he finished his tenure as the DNI. He's a private citizen at this point. But he secretly went and met with Jorge Rodriguez. And there was an article written later where they interviewed Elliot Abrams. Elliot Abrams was appointed by Trump for the last 2 years of his first term as the representative to Venezuela. Elliot Abrams said he had no idea this meeting was happening either, has no idea what was discussed at the meeting.
What year was this meeting?
This was 2019.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So Jorge Rodriguez, the guy in this picture, met with Rick Grenell secretly, did not tell anybody in the U.S. government this was happening, didn't even tell Trump's own envoy to Venezuela this was happening, allegedly. And then here is Rodriguez standing next to Rick Grenell 11 days after Trump is sworn in. And the context for this picture is Rick Grenell hops on a plane, flies down there on January 31st, scoops up 6 Americans who were detained by Maduro and brings them home. And I have the picture of that too.
Were those CIA assets?
Yeah. So these are guys who were arrested by Maduro, and they were accused of being part of a CIA plot to overthrow the Venezuelan government.
And this meeting, they say it was secret. It's been reported on, obviously, but were they pushing regime change back then too? "Quote unquote,"
well, that's interesting because let's see. So prior to him meeting, Rick Grenell meeting with Jorge Rodriguez, Eric Prince secretly goes and meets with Delcy Rodriguez.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so that's reported as well. I can pull up that article. That is, and Eric Prince at that point was trying to negotiate the release of the Citgo Six, the 6 American executives I mentioned earlier who were arrested by Maduro in 2017. He was trying to negotiate their release. It's unclear in the reporting whether he was there as just a private citizen or whether Trump asked him to go there. Kind of cloudy. I think it's a blurry line there. But a few months before that, Eric Prince had proposed sending 5,000 mercenaries down there to overthrow Maduro, because you'll recall that back then, this is 2019.
2020.
I'm sorry?
It looks like it was 2020.
I'm sorry. Yes. Eric Prince's meeting in 2020. You'll recall that was when Juan Guaido was being supported by Trump. Trump backed Juan Guaido. Juan Guaido is the guy who ran against Maduro in 2018 and lost the election, or won the election, depending on who you ask. And so he's the guy that was being propped up by the Uniparty as the legitimate leader of Venezuela. And so Rick Grenell was saying, or not Rick Grenell, but Eric Prince was saying, let's just send 5,000 Blackwater guys down there, mercenaries down there, and we will kick down some doors, overthrow the regime, and install Juan Guaido. And then a few months later is meeting secretly with Delcy Rodriguez, trying to negotiate the release of these 6 American oil executives. 2 weeks after that meeting occurs, those oil executives are removed from prison and put into a house on house arrest. So something obviously came of that meeting between Eric Prince and Delcy Rodriguez. But it's even speculated by Bloomberg in that article when they report on it that this represented a U-turn, that's the word they use, in the relationship between Donald Trump and Maduro. And this was probably a back channel. That's the other word they use. That Eric Prince was setting up a back channel between Maduro and Donald Trump.
I'm more interested in the Grinnell meeting, because if you look at the title of this article, Trump envoy Grinnell tried to secretly negotiate Maduro exit. It says they were looking for a win leading up to the elections. Mike Pompeo didn't know about it, but Robert O'Brien and Trump signed off on it. So that's notable to me.
Yes. Yeah. And so the reason I bring up those two meetings, the Eric Prince meeting and the Grinnell meeting, because it signals that there's continuity here of this plot between the first Trump administration and the second Trump administration, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a number of things that happened that we don't need to dig into. It would be too confusing to run through it all right now during the Biden administration. But my speculation is that, just like with so many other storylines that y'all have evaluated on the show, it looks like the Biden administration was used as a proxy to ease sanctions against Maduro, engage in prisoner swaps with Maduro, where we sent back people that we wrongfully detained, that we wrongfully arrested and convicted on really, really faulty evidence back to Venezuela. They sent people that they arrested. Some of them were involved in failed coups. Some of them were friends of Maria Corina Machado. They sent those people back. This all happened under Biden. But the most important of these people would be this guy, Alex Saab. And so Alex Saab, he was one of Maduro's officials. He was targeted by the Obama administration.
Is that the Bitcoin guy?
He's not the Bitcoin guy. He was arrested in 2020.
No, he's the Bitcoin guy. This is the guy that has all of Venezuela's Bitcoin.
Oh, yes. This is the guy who has allegedly has $60 billion worth of Bitcoin. Yes. So this is the Bitcoin guy for sure. And as it says right here, this is a February 2022 article. It says Venezuelan Maduro ally Alex Saab, cooperated with the DEA before arrest, court documents show. So basically, this guy gets sanctioned by Trump in 2019. Delcy Rodriguez also gets sanctioned. Maduro was sanctioned before that by Trump. And he defects. He leaves Venezuela. He comes to the United States, and he is an active, it says right here, Saab agreed to be an active law enforcement source for the Drug Enforcement Administration and later confessed to paying bribes to Venezuelan officials, U.S. prosecutors said in the filing. In 2019, they told him he would face criminal charges if he did not voluntarily surrender, according to the filing. But basically, for 2 years, he was acting as a source, informing on the cartels and informing on the corrupt oil officials inside the Venezuelan government to the Trump administration. And it says right down here that David Rivkin, his lawyer, said in a statement that Saab only met with U.S. law enforcement officials to explain that his company had done nothing wrong, adding that Venezuela was fully aware of his engagement with those officials. It says the news could be an embarrassment to Maduro's government, which has championed Saab as a special envoy who helped Venezuela's government conduct business deals under the radar of U.S. sanctions meant to force the ruling Socialist Party from power. So what his lawyer is saying there is that everything that Alex Saab was doing with the U.S. government was being done with the blessing of Nicolás Maduro. And so in 2023, when he is sent back to Venezuela, along with some Maduro relatives who were arrested, accused of trafficking drugs on really, really faulty evidence, Maduro then appoints him to be the Minister of Industry in the government. So gives him one of the top positions in the government. So this guy who was in America informing on the Venezuelan government, the speculation was that he had turned on Maduro. Then it turns out that he actually gets sent back by Biden and then gets appointed to a top position in the Venezuelan government. And he happens to have $60 billion in Bitcoin, apparently.
It's about as much as I have too. I want to go back to this article here. This, oh, that's not the right one. This one, because I think you kind of skipped over it. This is from just October of 2025.
Yes.
And the plan that they talk about here is literally what we're seeing unfold right now. A group of senior Venezuelan government officials led by Vice President Delcy Rodriguez and her brother Jorge who is president of the National Assembly, have quietly promoted a series of initiatives in recent months aimed at presenting themselves to Washington as a more acceptable alternative to Nicolás Maduro's regime. According to people with direct knowledge of the talks, the proposals are being funneled through intermediaries in Qatar. They're trying to persuade sectors of the U.S. government that Madurismo without Maduro could enable a peaceful transition in Venezuela, which is exactly what we're seeing here. But the biggest part of this, I think you highlighted this when what you sent us, was Maduro approved it. Maduro's approving his own regime change, which is just on its face weird to me. Like, dictators are supposed to live until they die as dictators and then not just step away willingly. But this whole thing seems to be planned ahead of time. And I think it's fascinating. Then you have some clips too, I think.
I do. And before we go to the clips, I'll just show that I went and pulled from the Qatari foreign ministry. Here are the meetings that were likely where this all took place. So we have meetings in April. We have Delcy Rodriguez meeting with Tamim Al-Thani. This is the leader of Qatar, who's Trump's dear friend. You remember Trump met with him on the runway in Qatar. Here's September. Al-Thani meeting with the Venezuelan foreign minister. You have the Qatari foreign minister on the 4th of July meeting with both Maduro and Rodriguez. And then the really weird thing was also, like, while this April meeting is happening, Delcy Rodriguez is in Qatar meeting with Al-Thani. The Qatari foreign minister is in Venezuela, in Caracas, meeting with Maduro, which is really weird. Like, why would heads of state meeting with the foreign minister? That just doesn't happen. It's very rare for that to happen. But for both heads of state to be meeting with the others, either foreign minister or vice president, in the case of Rodriguez, within the same 3 days in each other's country, I've never seen that before. And I track this stuff like a nerd, and I've never seen that happen before. So this is probably when that happens.
So very briefly, sum up what you think it means.
Well, I think what it means is, according to that article, the Miami Herald article, it says that the first proposal was sent.
The proposal to replace Maduro.
Yes, it was the proposal for the continuity of government so that the Maduro regime could remain intact without Maduro there. The initial proposal was sent by Qatar to Rick Grinnell, and then Rick Grinnell presented it to Trump. That's in April of 2025. And then that was allegedly rejected by Trump. And then fast forward to September, a revised version of that proposal sent from Qatar to Rick Grinnell, and then Rick Grinnell presents it to Trump, and allegedly he accepts it. Or I mean, I think in the article they're unclear, but Trump is considering it, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So the idea then, oh, sorry, John, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was going to say the idea then is that Maduro was involved with stepping down himself with a continuity of government program in place where the government would continue to be run under the auspices of his regime until he either returns or who knows what. Maybe he just goes and rides off into the sunset. But the point is that he would have been the authority signing off on his own stepping down. And Delcy Rodriguez has said, I think multiple times this week, that Nicolás Maduro is still the president of Venezuela.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do you have those video clips, Ghost?
Yes. And so the most important one, I think, is this one that RT just posted today, or I guess yesterday. And so this is the son of Nicolás Maduro. And the son of Nicolás Maduro says all current actions follow a plan. He's giving a speech at a public rally. He's been appearing at public rallies since his father was arrested. And he says all current actions follow a plan personally approved by the president. He says, quote, everything we are doing today was part of the plan. We are following your instructions, referring to his father. He says the roadmap is now carried out collectively under Delcy Rodriguez. So he says, and let there be no doubt, I'm telling you, everything that is happening, everything we are doing today as a government was Nicolás Maduro's plan, personally approved by him. We are following his instructions. He set the course. and he was prepared for everything. If something happens to me, here is the path, and you all know what you have to do. Here is the plan for the homeland. Here is the plan for the seven transformations. Here is the negotiation plan approved by him. The 5 points that the president approved in December are what we are working on today, and the prosperity that the country will achieve is the plan the president approved. We are following his instructions and with our elder sister, Delcy Rodriguez, leading as acting president, and the collective high political leadership team, collective direction, as he always told us.
Wow.
So he's saying that that plan was approved in December. Maduro was arrested on January 3rd.
So, Chris, what degree do we trust this plan?
I mean, I trust every plan.
Do you trust is this the plan? Do you trust it?
Oh, I could only trust this as the plan if I was in Venezuela and did not know the plan.
Okay. And then also when he speaks of 7 transformations, what are they talking about? Is that like the 82 versions for the
that could be that 7 transfer that could be like a translation thing. I'm not sure. Like sometimes the subtitles don't quite translate accurately. So I'm not sure what they mean by 7 transformations. But this picture right here, that's Nicolás Maduro's son holding the Bible that Delcy Rodriguez is being sworn in on. So he's clearly, I mean, at the center of this whole thing. And there's another clip that we don't need to play that I played on my show earlier this week at another rally where he says the plan was for the deep state to start a civil war in Venezuela. And we thwarted that plan. That's not going to happen. Are we going to let that happen? And the crowd screams no. He says, are we united? Yes, we are united. We're not going to let that happen. And then right after that, like a day later, the Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, he holds a rally where he says that Ivan Duque, the president before him, who was anti-Maduro and had no relationship with Venezuela, he said Ivan Duque was planning on allowing the American deep state to use his country, Colombia, as a staging ground to launch a ground invasion of Venezuela, which would have led to a civil war inside Venezuela. And that model is identical to what they did to Syria in 2011. They used Turkey as a staging ground, walked the weapons into Syria, handed them to the rebels, and the rebels turned out to be ISIS, told them to go overthrow Assad. So I think this is a model that has worked for the deep state before, and they're planning on using it again.
Sure. Can you show the video of the gal holding up the red binder?
Yes. So Chris,
here is something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I looked up the 7 transformations. This is what Chat GPT has to say about them. If you want to put that up, and then we'll get back to it. Economic transformation, independence, full sovereignty, peace, security, and territorial integrity. So public safety, justice, social cohesion, and the defense of Venezuela's territorial claims, including places like the Guyana Essequiba in government discourse. And so that's one of the disputed areas in that part of the world. And Guyana has been a colony and kind of an oil-rich state because of it, right next to Venezuela. I think we've talked about this a number of times, but it seems very much like the situation where you have Russia and then you have Ukraine, which is the global regime proxy. You have China, and then you have Taiwan, which is the global regime proxy. Then you've got Venezuela and Guyana. Eric Prince, I know, has talked. What's that? Yeah,
us in Canada.
Exactly. Yeah. But so those are the 7 transformations. There's some interesting stuff in there. Talking about a multipolar world. All of this is to be the lead up toward 2030, 2031.
Interesting. Okay. This is where Guyana is. That red one on the side over here.
Yeah. And the only country in South America that is part of the British Commonwealth. So which means it's part of they call it the British Commonwealth. That's just fancy talk for the British Empire.
This is the Brits own this thing?
Yes.
Oh man. Trump should take this over next.
Like Canada is part of the British Commonwealth, so is Guyana.
So when you put that in light of the Monroe Doctrine, part of the Monroe Doctrine, the most important part, I guess, the regional responsibility idea is part of the Monroe Doctrine. But the big part of that idea at the time was that the U.S. did not need any help overseeing the Americas and that the European colonizers should leave. And if you're thinking about sovereign nations versus the global regime, like global good twin versus global evil twin, you've got these superpower nations in the United States, Russia, and China who are capable of defending that region. But what are they defending it against? And we are always conditioned to believe that it's one country threatening another country. But that's not really our side versus the enemy side. The enemy side is a global thing. And so the idea then would be to keep that global regime from taking over any of the nations within that region of responsibility. And so you would have to get then the sovereign superpowers aligned in some way so that they would each guard against that happening in their region, which would prevent that global regime from really amassing power anywhere.
So I got to ask, I've posed this out there a few times, but I haven't gotten a great answer yet. And it's possible that one doesn't exist. We don't know. But why did they need to remove Maduro in the first place if you're just going to keep the Maduro regime there anyway, his underlings? And then also, you know, if he was working with you this whole time and turning over people, arresting people, political prisoners, all this stuff, why did you need to remove the figurehead of this group? Like, what are we going to see coming next that they couldn't have done with Maduro in office?
Well, that's a really, really good point. A good question. I want to address what Chris just said because he's absolutely right. The Monroe Doctrine, which Trump has been talking about, he calls it the Monroe Doctrine. It's really important to understand that 1823, when it was imposed, that's 9 years after the War of 1812. Okay. That was when Britain invaded DC and burned the White House to the ground. The Monroe Doctrine was directed at Britain and at Europe. That's who it was directed at. It wasn't directed at, you know, Russia or China or Africa. It was directed at the European powers, specifically Britain, because Britain had just come and burned our White House to the ground. And then after the War of 1812, we abolished the Federalist Party because the Federalist Party had actually sided with the British against us because they're all traitors. So, and they actually tried to start a civil war and get a bunch of states to secede and join Britain in the war and fight our government. So,
wait, how does that tie to the War of 1812?
The War of 1812 was the Federalists, who were the party that were deposed when Jefferson won the election of 1800, and a civil war almost happened when he defeated John Adams. They never won another election again after that. And their darling heir apparent, James Madison, defected from their party, joined Thomas Jefferson's cabinet, became his protege, and then ran for office against the Federalist Party in 1808, defeated them once, then defeated them again in 1812. And then Britain came and attacked us. But
because this, the reason I asked is when you brought up the War of 1812, this was just on the White House website 2 days ago.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Battle of New Orleans, the big hero of that battle was Andrew Jackson. And of course, Andrew Jackson then about 14 years later comes around and becomes president. And he's, of course, known for going after the banks. And when you say going after the banks in 1826, what you're really talking about is going after London, because London is where it's still the financial center of the world, but that's where all the money was. So again, we're talking about Britain. Every single time we're talking about this, but that context is lost today because the Anglosphere has like melded all of these countries together, where we view Britain and Australia and Canada, Five Eyes, as, you know, we're all one people. No, we're not. We're all different nations, but really the city of London is, even within Britain, its own thing.
Nailed it. Okay, now can you answer my question?
Yes. So your question is an important one, and I don't know what Chris's take is here, but I would imagine that we probably are somewhat aligned here. I think that the plan was always to launch a coup against. Obviously, there were a bunch of failed coups against Maduro over the years. We know of one for certain in May of 2020, the Bay of Piglets, where a bunch of former Green Berets tried to land in Venezuela, and they were all arrested. They were then sent back to the United States, and Donald Trump is now prosecuting them. His U.S. attorneys are now prosecuting them for launching a coup against Maduro. I think that this was always going to happen. And so I think by doing what happened on January 3rd, they rug pulled the whole thing, because now it's like they took all the wind out of their sails. Maria Corina Machado is out there screaming that the government's still intact. And, we haven't really actually done regime change. It's still the same regime. But, the villain, the bad guy, the guy who's been presented as, everything that's evil in Venezuela for the past however many years, he's gone. So I think that the whole thing was a rug pull. You ask, why couldn't we keep Maduro in place? Well, why couldn't we keep Assad in place? Right? I think it's the same answer.
Well, then the next part of that question would be, why couldn't we keep Trump in place? Right? There are things. I mean, this is, I think, a shared belief between us. There are things that needed to be done that were better done with someone else as the face of those things happening. In this case, that was Joe Biden. In Syria, it's al-Shura. In Venezuela, maybe it's Delcy Rodriguez. And we'll see ultimately what all that means. But I would just suggest that they are, for narrative purposes, or maybe some practical concerns that I'm unaware of, they just needed the other character in there at the front of it. Maybe business is easier to do without Maduro there. They've spent 2 decades, almost a decade and a half, creating a character out of Maduro, like they spent creating a character out of Assad or of Putin or Xi or any of these people. And they also did that to Donald Trump. And so to get out of that, maybe that's a process. Maybe they did such a good job of creating that character that moving someone aside it facilitates the next stages of this thing. Who knows? If Maduro was there, then Donald Trump would have to be doing business with the guy that everyone knows is a brutal dictator. Instead, he makes tons of news about taking that guy out. And now he can do some business with this new woman without looking like he's totally overthrown the country. To me, it all seems like narrative stuff, but
it makes you wonder, all these different places where we talk about this, where they have to, certain things can only be done with somebody out of the picture, like a Trump or Maduro or whatever. How come it never needs to happen with Putin out of the picture?
Well, I mean, it did for a while. Putin left
That's
the picture.
True, 4 years, right?
Yeah.
He had his own devolution. Yep.
Yeah, Medvedev, right?
Yep. Yeah, and so the reason that happened was because the Russian constitution prevented him from serving a third term, but then Medvedev, while he was president, changed that law and amended it so Putin could come back and be president again.
So Trump needs, except without him having to step away again.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is there's this thing called the strategy of tension. And I think, more colloquially, we've come to call it Operation Gladio. But the strategy of tension is basically the CIA has used it for the past century, where conflict is encouraged as opposed to suppressed. And the point of it is to encourage a feeling of insecurity among a population. So the population then demands a stronger government and more security, which then results in, of course, tyranny, but also regime change. So I think it seems like if you look at the rhetoric that Trump has used against Maduro for several months now, it seems like he was almost doing like a really goofy, cartoonish version of the strategy of tension, where, look at like what Rick Scott, that clip of Rick Scott this past week. What a jackass, where he says, we're going to do Cuba next, then Nicaragua, then Colombia. And that's before we even get to Iran. He's like, just regime change after, like, we're just going to control the entire world. We're going to impose our tyrannical view on the entire world. And he said the whole reason to do it is for democracy, which this is like a Republican senator saying that. Republican. It's like, sounds like a Democrat. They're all the same, of course, but it's like Trump has given these people this bravado, this false sense of, we no longer have to be ashamed of the fact that we are, regime change, like pro-regime change, and we love forever wars, because Trump is obviously out here talking about it. So we're going to talk about it. And they are shamelessly out there talking about just overthrowing every single government in the Western Hemisphere.
Here's that clip. And then I also have a great clip of Trump and what he said about Greenland, which fits into what you're saying here. But Chris, you want to say something?
Gosh, he looks like Fire Marshal Bill. Doesn't he? I as soon as I saw that, I forgot that. I was just going to say, the neocon global revolution all the time that they've kind of had as the ideological descendants of Trotsky. Yep, there we have it. Perfect. Sorry.
Is that Jim Carrey?
Yeah. So they, the Trotsky thing was revolution all the time, and that was a class struggle revolution. The neocons kind of took that to a next stage and made it military initiated revolution all the time worldwide. It's a constant cycle of taking over countries on behalf of the global regime. And, from the Bush era on, probably before, but it's at least when it became really popularized in media and whatnot, it's the idea that they were going to go around the globe spreading democracy. So to hear somebody like Rick Scott say that, he's very much in line with traditional neoconservatives.
Yeah, let's take a listen.
So proud of what the president did, and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and everybody, our military, Maria Corina Machado, and what they did in Venezuela is going to change Latin America. This is the start of changing Venezuela. Then we're going to fix Cuba. Nicaragua will get fixed. Next year, we'll get a new president in Colombia. We're going to start, the democracy is coming back to this hemisphere.
It's just like an a la carte menu. You just pick whichever president you want in a new place. It's perfect.
Yep.
But
remember how they were saying he was going to be the ultra MAGA Senate leader we needed?
Yeah, but then we got John Thune, man. He's way better.
I mean,
right? He's been so staunch about defending the filibuster. I'm proud of him.
And to Chris's point, the whole reason the Republican Party is like this is because Trotsky wanted to do that in Soviet Russia. He said Russia should seek to overthrow every government and install our view of government everywhere in the world. And Stalin said no. And so he expelled Trotsky, kicked him out. He had to go live in exile. He moved to Mexico. And then his protege, his underlings, after he was killed in the 30s, went up to New York City and spawned all their children. And then their children grew up and became Irving Kristol. And Irving Kristol and all of his friends, these are all Jewish intellectuals from New York City from the 1960s and 1970s. They take over the Republican Party in 1971, and they take Trotsky's idea of a forever revolution all over the world. And that drives the engine of their ideology and their government.
And of course, the military industrial complex loves it because there are always wars to fight, which means there are always militaries to build and fund.
Yeah. Trump had some interesting posts this week about the defense contractors. We could get into that too, but I do want to play this clip. This is him talking about Greenland.
How much money are you thinking of giving people in Greenland to get them on board with a possible U.S.
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. Okay? I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. And by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too. I have to tell you, and they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also, but we need that because if you take a look outside of Greenland right now, there are Russian destroyers, there are Chinese destroyers and bigger. There are Russian submarines all over the place. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland, and that's what they're going to do if we don't. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way. Please, go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. President, why is it so important to you to own it when you have a military presence there, which you could expand to affect security?
Because when we own it, we defend it. You don't defend leases the same way. You have to own it. And, with a nation, look at what happened with Obama, with that horrible deal they made with Iran. It was a short-term deal. It was like a 9-year deal. Countries can't make 9-year deals or even 100-year deals. Countries have to have ownership. And you defend ownership, you don't defend leases. And we'll have to defend Greenland. If we don't do it, China or Russia will. It's not going to happen. We are not going to have, and I like China, I like Russia, I love the people of China, I love the people of Russia. I get along very well with President Putin, but I'm very disappointed in him. I get along very well with President Xi. I'm going to go over to China in April, but I don't want them as a neighbor in Greenland. Not going to happen. And by the way, and NATO's got to understand that. I'm all for NATO. I saved NATO. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have a NATO right now. But we're not going to allow Russia or China to occupy Greenland, and that's what's going to happen if we don't.
Pretty sure it's not AI, so it's pretty badass.
Yeah. So Delcy Rodriguez, the Venezuelan president, said that this is the law. Like America is now imposing the law of the jungle, and then you have.
She said.
Yeah, she said this is the law of the jungle, which is might makes right, which is mean the strong does what the strong wants, and the weaklings deal with it. Putin, by the way, recently said the exact same thing. He went through the history of the past 25 years. You know, why did America bomb Yugoslavia in 1999? Why did America come in and blow up Georgia in 2008? He's like, why did they go into Syria? Why did they go into Iraq? They didn't have a reason. They just did it. And then they said, oops, our intelligence messed up in Iraq. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Nobody cared. Nobody did anything. It's like the strong do what the strong want. There is no such thing as international law. There is just the appearance of international law. And it's the law of the jungle. We did the Badlands Blitz yesterday with Burning Bright. And the analogy I used was if politics is a soap opera, like Days of Our Lives, a very serious, dramatic soap opera, what Trump has done is he's come in and he's made it a wrestling soap opera where Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage are now on screen. The other actors have no idea what's going on. The cameras are still rolling, and the audience is now no longer paying attention to that soap opera. They're totally fixated on these goofy wrestling characters. And now the other characters from the Days of Our Life plot are trying to regain control of the narrative, but they don't have the script. So the only thing they can do is just imitate what's working, which is the Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage. We're going to do whatever we got to do. We're going to go bomb the hell out of Greenland. We're going to take it over. We're going to go kill Maduro. We're going to overthrow whoever we have to overthrow. And then that leads to Rick Scott imitating that and Tom Cotton imitating that and Lindsey Graham imitating that. How do they defend that later when Trump backs up and says, yeah, I was just talking out of my ass?
Chris, do you have any more questions for Ghost?
Well, I want to make sure that we get to that red folder thing. I think that we kind of got off track and missed that. But to the international law bit, I think that's important. I was reading before we got on an article in the Financial Times about how Trump is just kind of ignoring all this stuff, and he's putting in this might makes right policy. Well, that's how it's always been. It's just that the side that the Financial Times wants to win, which is the side of the global bankers and the former British Empire, this like global entity, they used might makes right. And then it was always done with the illusion of international law so that they would have a justification to the people why it was okay for them to enter any country they wanted militarily, whether it was NATO or a UN peacekeeping force or the US military directly. They could say, well, these people have violated international law or these people have violated human rights. And therefore, we need the United States to take its moral authority and bomb the shit out of these places.
You know, that brings up the article from the Times that you sent over. And I don't know if we want to get into this now or if we should get into it later.
No, I mean, there's just there's a couple quotes in here that are worth discussing from Trump, but it's true. The limits to his action are bounded only by his own morality. International law isn't real. International law does not restrain the behavior of any of us or anyone in the audience. Okay. So if it can't restrain the people's behavior, then it can't possibly restrain a sovereign nation acting upon the will of those people. International law is meaningless.
Which is why it's fitting that Trump just withdrew from, was it 65 different international groups just last week?
Yep.
Pretty exciting stuff. But no, I love this quote, the morality thing, because we discuss the morality of what Trump is doing and what is going on all the time. And so it's fun to him actually to like say those words in an interview. I haven't finished reading this whole thing yet, but
there's been a lot of really interesting articles this week. You know, I always keep up with the Economist and the Financial Times. You know, they're the most elite commie news outlets you can read. And it's important to know what they're saying to their donors, to their politicians, to the people that go in those kind of Yale globalist society meetings that we were talking about Maria Hakuna Matata going to. These are the outlets where they talk to themselves. So it's important to know what they're saying and how they're framing these things.
Well, it's
they are not happy about Trump, like just doing the stuff that he wants that destroys them.
Yeah, well, that's one of the places where they cycle their consensus building. Like they do the think tanks, and then they cycle them through all these, you know, left-wing rags, and then the politicians start advocating the points, and social media starts promoting them, and just on and on. That's how you build a fake consensus.
Yeah, and like Joe Scarborough disseminates them to that side of the audience every morning.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Do you want to briefly, Ghost, tell us about the Iran situation? Because
well, wait, what about the red folder? We keep
let's do the red folder. Yeah, so here is
important event to ensure, as we were saying, the strength.
All right, so this is the Secretary of the National Assembly introducing. They're about to swear in Delcy Rodriguez. As she explains, she says that. Let's see. So now they tune in, and she basically, I'm just getting at. She talks about the continuity of government. She says we're doing this to maintain the continuity of government. So that really straightforward explain. And then she explains that this is all a constitutional process. This is being done by under the direction of Nicolás Maduro. Okay. And then here is the.
I think it's interesting that the military leaders are there in uniform as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's certainly a sign of
support.
Alliance. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just making sure I have the right tab.
And that is, by the way, the same military that allowed the United States to enter Venezuela and take Maduro. Trump said specifically that they were ready.
Do you believe the story of the shockwave weapon or whatever that's going around?
That story's funny as hell. No, but hey,
it's a funny story.
Let me see if I can find that while Ghost is getting organized here.
Okay, so here is her like public address. She gives a public address after she's sworn in, and this is what John's talking about. I was on his show on Friday, and I think what he wanted me to show was at the very end of this. She pulls a red folder out. So she says right here, she talks about how these people are trying to enslave us again. This whole thing is a Zionist tinge to it. She's talking about the neocons. And then she says, if there's one thing that the Venezuelan people in this country are absolutely clear about, is that we will never again be slaves. All of Venezuela is mobilized, and the decree that has already been signed by President Maduro, the only president of Venezuela. There's only one president in this country. And then she holds up a red folder. She says, and his name is Nicolás Maduro Moros. Yeah. And the last thing I'll share is this RT article, this analysis by this Fyodor Lukyanov guy, editor-in-chief of Russia and Global Affairs. In GART back in November, I read an excerpt from another article or analysis that he wrote, where he said Trump isn't changing American politics. He's merely turning the volume down enough that everybody can just see what it actually is now. Everyone sees it for what it is. And then here's another one that he just published where he says Trump's vanity is an easy target for irony, but in fairness, one point deserves acknowledgement. Thanks to this politician, the notion that war is abnormal, unnecessary even, has been constantly present in the public discourse. Why he personally needs this is beside the point. Even given the fact that while rejecting full-scale wars, Trump is more than comfortable with muscle flexing, shows of force, and its selective application. And the title of this is Trump's Venezuela move may have just earned him a Nobel Peace Prize.
I doubt it. I mean, not that it shouldn't, but I doubt they're going to give it to him. Did you hear they were like, no, Marina Katumanatata, you cannot give your award to somebody else. That is illegal.
Well, Trump.
Is that what they said?
Yeah.
Did you hear Trump saying this week that she was going to come in for a meeting next week and give him her Nobel Peace Prize?
But they came out and said that you can't do that.
It's
not allowed.
That's so funny.
It's going to start an international conflict.
Did you see this is that meeting he held with all the oil executives where he told them, he just said, hey, y'all are going to go invest $100 billion in Venezuela. And the reports have been that they're like reluctant to do that. But he's like, no, you're doing it. Like, you're going to go invest $100 billion in Venezuela and rebuild their oil. I think this is all related. I think like damages from that lawsuit that was filed in 2018 that alleged that they stole all the money from PDVSA. Listen to what he says here.
Now they seem to be an ally, and I think it'll continue to be an ally. And we don't want to have Russia there, and we don't want to have China there. And by the way, we don't want Russia or China going to Greenland, which if we don't take Greenland, you're going to have Russia or China as your next door neighbor. That's not going to happen.
So he just said they seem to be an ally. We're referring to the Maduro regime. They seem to be an ally now, and I think they will continue to be an ally. So he said it right there.
Did you see the one where one of the guys was like, how much money did you lose down there? How much money? He's like, oh, well, that's too bad for you, I guess.
Yeah, like
Let's see if I can find it.
$4 or $6 billion.
What was that?
Like, I think it was 4 billion or 6 billion.
Yeah, I think it was 12.
That was an interesting, oh yeah, maybe. That was an interesting little meeting he had there. And it's funny because the only part the media seemed to want to cover was when the guy from Exxon said that certain aspects of government and certain legislation would have to be passed before they would feel comfortable making investments there. They basically were trying to tell the story that the situation Trump has set up there right now is not good enough for the global regime to push its companies into Venezuela. And they've been trying to get their companies into Venezuela for a very long time. They just don't want to do it under the terms of a sovereign Venezuela or a Donald Trump who might allow it.
Yeah, you guys got to listen to this.
Including PDVSA. And I think if we can do that and think bold, there's an opportunity to be quick, fast, and restore the quality of what's happened in Venezuela or what's been lost in Venezuela over the course of the last 25 years. So thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you very much. And you'll get a lot of your money back. We're going to start with an even plate, though. We're not going to look at what people lost in the past because that was their fault. That was a different president. You're going to make a lot of money, but we're not going to go back. You left a lot of money behind, I guess, huh? What number?
12 billion.
How much?
12 billion.
Well, it's a good write-off.
It's already been written off.
It's been written. All right, thank you. You'll make it back one way or the other. You're all going to do very well. And
Oh, no, this is
It's
right
nice,
after.
very well.
it's nice that they can write off.
Go back to Chevron. They want to discuss something. Go ahead. I'm going back to Chevron.
That was so funny too.
That was so funny. Like that was supposed to be like secret, and,
Yeah.
and Trump just read the note to everybody.
So funny.
Yeah. Well, it's important to understand, like, for people who are confused about the kayfabe thing, I have the U.S. Treasury sanction pulled up right here from 2018. This is months after he sanctioned Maduro directly. There are 4 people who are targeted in the sanction. It is Celia Flores, that's Maduro's wife, Delcy Rodriguez, now the current president of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, her husband, who's the president of the National Assembly, the guy who was meeting with Rick Grinnell, and Vladimir Pedrino, who is the defense minister, who remains the defense minister. These are the 4 people who are basically running, 3 minus Maduro's wife, who are running Venezuela now, and they were targeted with sanctions by Trump back in 2018. That kicked off this entire thing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, okay, real briefly now.
Yep.
Iran, and then we'll get you out of here, and we got to get a sponsor in, and then we got a couple other topics to wrap up the show. So Iran, it sounds like they're going through it right now. Trump had a post. He said, Iran is looking at freedom. He said it all caps, so I'm picturing Mel Gibson screaming it while he's getting disemboweled. perhaps like never before, the USA stands ready to help President Donald J. Trump. So what's he talking about, man?
Maybe he means they're going to buy Charlie Kirk t-shirts.
Ooh,
that would be. I mean, there's what, like 50 million people there, so that would be pretty good t-shirt sales.
That would be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I think the regime change in Iran like already happened. I think that the guy Pezeshkian, who's the president now, is a moderate. He seems to be. I mean, we've seen them normalize relations with all of the people who they weren't getting along with, the Arabs. They've signaled that they're even willing to to get along with Israel if Israel will just stop messing with everybody in the region. The Ayatollah, like the whole religious faction, that seems to be the turd in the punch bowl. I mean, that was installed by MI6 in 1979. So, you know, it's the goofy part is like talking about us going in there with the military and like militarily assisting them, which again is like strategy of tension, because you're saying the quiet part out loud. This is like law of the jungle. And Putin is sitting there saying, you better not do that because, you know, we've signed some pretty significant economic trade deals with these people, and we don't want to see their country destroyed.
Awesome. Chris, anything to add? Otherwise.
Well, I was looking at some of the Iran stuff today, and I thought it was interesting. So Ghost is obviously right. The global intelligence installed the Ayatollah there, but before him was the Shah, and the Shah was essentially one of their guys too. But before that was Mossadegh. And what did he do? Well, he nationalized the oil, which is the same thing that Nicolás Maduro did that made them so mad. You are not allowed to control your own country's resources. And when Trump talks about that Venezuela stole their own oil, well, he nationalized their oil resources after these global energy companies had made deals there. So these long-term lease deals are part of the way that they take over countries, but it's part of how they keep their system going worldwide. So if sovereign nations take back control over their resources, well, the global regime and the control over the global economy and the way they operate things is totally screwed. I mean, you know, they have, I talk about this often, Ghost can add whatever he likes to this, but control over the media, control over finance, control over resources, trade routes, and then ultimately militaries, that's their control structure. And so if you're able to take control in other ways, or at least take the kind of physical power routes out of that, and then can mitigate the media factor and the finance factor, that's what kind of short circuits their whole program. And so you're seeing that happen again. And Mossadegh, having done that in the middle of the 20th century, well, that's a good reason for them to take him out. It's the same reason they want to take out first Chavez and, you know, obviously now Maduro.
Yeah. And Reza Pahlavi, the son that they've been pushing, he's like the Maria Corina Machado of Iran.
Maria Corina Pahlavi.
Yeah. And Trump totally shit on that idea. He's like, I don't think so. Yeah. Sean Hannity asked Trump the other night, what about just a symbolic like position? Like he doesn't have any real power. He's just a symbol, you know, a symbol of regime change. Trump said, I don't think that'd be appropriate. No, we're not going to do that.
Not even assistant to the regime change?
Not even to assistant to the regional manager.
Crazy.
Speaking of that Hannity interview, by the way, Trump had something really interesting to say about Venezuela's elections. And we played this yesterday on Daily, but this is right up at the beginning of this clip for like just maybe a minute 15.
Now, it's interesting. You mentioned all of the criminals and the people let out of prisons that were sent to our borders in our country. That's Tren de Aragua. That's cartel members.
Some of the worst criminals in the world were let into our country.
Known terror ties.
Biden's open border policy. Anybody could come in.
And that will get into the issue of Minneapolis going on right now. But back to this one issue. Do you foresee a Venezuela that will have free and fair elections? And I would have little doubt that the opposition would probably win handily if they were free and if they were fair.
Yeah, I do see that. I think that's happening. But before we do that, it's going to take a while to do. We have to rebuild the country. They couldn't have an election. They wouldn't even know how to have an election right now. The country's become third world, and they wouldn't know how to have an election right now. We're going to rebuild the oil and the oil infrastructure. We'll be in charge of it. It's going to do great and make a lot of money. And we're going to take it from there, but we're going to rebuild the country, and ultimately you're going to have elections.
Why doesn't Hannity talk about free and fair elections when it comes to America?
I don't know.
Because we wouldn't know what to do with them even if we tried, as Trump said. We wouldn't even know how to have an election if we wanted to.
That's funny. And, you know, the proof then, of course, because it's totally circular, the proof of free and fair elections is if the global regime candidates win. And if they can't win, that means the elections aren't free and fair.
That's true. That's a good point. Ghost, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Later, guys.
You've had a busy few days back. You've been on like every show except Only Lands last night.
I know.
Asshole.
I know. And I'm going to be on the narrative tomorrow, and then I think Culture of Change on Monday night with Ash. So it's going to be a lot. It's a gauntlet. So
yeah, if you get bored and want to play some video games with me in CanCon tomorrow, you can.
Hell yeah. But I'll have to check my schedule. Depends if it's when my kids are out and about. So we'll see.
All right.
Later, guys.
See ya.
Cool. See you later. Let's get a quick ad read in, Chris, and then we'll get into a couple of our other topics. Got some CB Distillery. What if your only resolution this year was to get better sleep? Just imagine how much more energy you'd have. You'd handle stress better. Pretty much all your goals would be easier, right? That's why the smart way to start 2026 is with CBD from CB Distillery. Get this, over 90% of CBD customers say they sleep better with CBD. That is pretty tough to beat. And when you sleep better, everything feels easier. CB Distillery has options for more than just sleep. It's got solutions for stress relief, mood, pain after workouts. You can shop by benefits, so it's easy to find what you're looking for. And everything from CB Distillery is premium quality, third-party tested, and free of artificial dyes or fillers. They have over 2 million happy customers and a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're ready to start the year off right, go to cbdistillery.com and use code DPH for 25% off. That's cbdistillery.com, promo code DPH for 25% off. And specific product availability depends on individual state regulations. There we go. And we also got a beard oil ad, so I'm going to play this so I can go pee quick.
Get you some of that beard oil.
Now that I'm alone, got the close-up. Do you see how awesome my beard looks right now?
I use the beard oil every single day. First thing, comes out feeling all silky smooth. I take the dropper and I manually apply the oil directly to my mustache. Nice and, oh man, I love it. And then I do drops all throughout the hair, and then I just rub it all in. And then I top it off with the tallow stick on the face.
Dude, I feel like I have to grow a beard just to try this beard oil. It sounds
Do it, Jay.
amazing.
It's all from softdisclosure.com, and the best part about it is you'll be supporting Badlands Media, Annie from Willow and Farms, and basically 3 of Annie's neighbors. So that's 5 total American companies that you'd be supporting with one purchase.
I have been using the Soft Disclosure scentless beard oil every day after the shower. It looks unkempt, but it feels silky smooth. I want to look a little wild and unapproachable, but for the woman I trust, she'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of soft. He is approachable after all. Otherwise, stay away. And Soft Disclosure will help you too with that if that's the very specific vibe you're going for.
That is very specific, yes.
You guys are supporting American businesses when you do that. It's absolutely incredible, and you get a great, great product.
Awesome. Get yourself some Soft Disclosure, guys. Loving the beard oil. Chris, what time is it? We have so many more topics that we had written down. I really wanted to get into the blackbilling topic with you.
Okay.
We could do War Powers Act, maybe. I think we already did the Trump morality one. So,
well, the war powers thing is kind of connected to the Venezuela thing, right?
Yeah. So why don't we get into that a little bit? The Senate this week, was it this week? It was this week, right?
It was
Senate.
like Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, they passed a bill out of the Senate. I think it still has to go to or the House, and then Trump would obviously have to sign it, which he wouldn't. But it's a bill to basically limit the president's authority when it comes to declaring war or getting the United States into war. And did Trump even comment on this yet?
I think that he did post about it and say that it was unconstitutional. And there's a pretty good record of that being the case. I was looking through some of this today. You know, the Insurrection Act, we've talked about plenty. The Insurrection Act was put into place, I think, in 1792. And then the Whiskey Rebellion happened a couple of years after that. And then it was revised, and it has kind of just lasted for a long time since then. So there was a discussion at the founding about whether or not the president should have the power to call the militia together himself, or whether Congress would be the only body capable of doing that. And so the Insurrection Act at the time seemed like Congress actually delegating away some of their constitutional power to the president so that he could call together the militia to enforce within the American borders. And that has a lot to do with how immigration is enforced, with the ICE issues this week and whatnot. I mean, I would just say that the Department of Homeland Security should not exist. That's like post 9/11 bullshit. They have 60 plus offices around the world. I don't know whose homeland they're securing, but it seems like it is the global regime's international homeland that they are set up to secure. So, you know, a federal police force that can go around the country enforcing federal law, which is all law that shouldn't exist on a constitutional basis anyhow. You know, this stuff is levels deep. And I would hope that some of these stories are happening so that a lot of these issues can be adjudicated in the future, and we can kind of figure out where all this is going. But man, it's really convoluted.
Yeah. So the War Powers Act thing is interesting because I'm pretty, like you said this, but when you go and look up like what are the arguments saying that's unconstitutional, they're saying that it does cede more power to the president to get us into war, and it's almost like after the fact you come back and get permission from Congress. Like they're the ones who decide after the fact. And I don't. This would be an interesting one to get up to SCOTUS, which makes you wonder if that's why it even got through in the first place, for them to narrow down his authorities. Because I've still been waiting for one of these cases, whether it's the National Guard or whatever it is, to bring up the argument of Campbell versus Clinton. We haven't seen it yet. But yeah, this is interesting. This is what he posted. Let me read this quick. Republicans should be ashamed of the senators that just voted with Democrats in attempting to take away our powers to fight and defend the United States of America. Suzanne Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, and Todd Young should never be elected to office again. This vote greatly hampers American self-defense and national security, impeding the president's authority as commander-in-chief in any event. And despite their stupidity, the War Powers Act is unconstitutional, totally violating Article 2 of the Constitution, as all presidents and the Departments of Justice have determined before me. Nevertheless, a more important Senate vote will be taking place next week on this very subject. Do we know what he was talking about there?
I don't know what he was talking about, but I guess, you know, we'll see.
It would be something different, but having to do with those war powers, because it wouldn't be in the Senate again if this bill that they just voted on passed. So I wonder what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But this is Article 2.
Yeah, but the unconstitutional bit is what I'm focused on. And you know, the Insurrection Act was, as I said, the Congress kind of delegating away some of its power, and then the War Powers Act was an attempt to kind of pull the president's ability to do things around the world with the military back under the Congress. And I'll hold off on the rest of it until we go through this.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the actual vote that they had. I think it's this one. Hold on. So I'm on congress.gov. I'm not sharing my screen. No, that's not it. It was January 8th, right?
That sounds right. That's Thursday.
Yeah, here it is. This is really short. Congress says this is what they're asking to make certain, I guess. Congress has the sole power to declare war under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the United States Constitution. Congress has not declared war upon Venezuela or any person or organization within or operating from Venezuela, nor enacted a specific statutory authorization for use of military force within or against Venezuela. The use of military force by the United States Armed Forces within or against Venezuela constitutes the introduction of the United States Armed Forces into hostilities within the meaning of Section 4A of the War Powers Resolution. Section 1013 of the Department of State Authorization Act, fiscal years 84, blah, 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 provides that any joint resolution or bill to require the removal of the United States Armed Forces from imminent engagement in hostilities without a declaration of war or specific statutory authorization shall be considered in accordance with the expedited procedures. Getting very technical, but I wouldn't say that Trump or the United States military is in an active war right now.
Mm-hmm.
He just went and grabbed the guy.
Yeah. I wonder how much they're relying on the national emergency status. And I mean, that gives him the ability to kind of bypass the Congress in that sense. But again, when it was set up, the idea that each state would have its own militia, which would essentially be staffed by the citizens of that state, the people of that state, and then the Congress would choose to call together the militias of the nation, and then the president would act as the singular decider, commander-in-chief, once the militia was called together, so that they could direct action from a central body. We are not in that position at all now, with not only multiple branches of a standing army, but as we were talking about before, these federal police forces that are essentially just small armies going out to enforce whatever is claimed to be federal law, because DC just makes it up as they go along.
Yeah, they all do, man. I do want to read this because this clarifies the vote this week. In a rare rebuke to the Trump administration, the Senate on Thursday advanced a war powers resolution that would block the president's use of the U.S. Armed Forces to engage in hostilities within or against Venezuela unless authorized by Congress. They need 51 votes. They got it. The legislation, if ultimately approved by the Senate, would still need to be approved by the House and signed by the president. So the bill didn't pass with a veto-proof majority, and it is unlikely that Trump would sign into law in order to override a presidential veto. Congress needs support of 2/3 of the House. So I don't know. Maybe they won't get enough. But who knows? There's some, real, what does Thomas Massey calls himself? Principled conservatives, probably against what's going on here. So
sure,
that would be interesting.
And, for the record, I don't have any problem with people actually taking a principled stand on this. I don't think any of them are legitimate, and I don't trust the reason why they'd be doing it. But it's probably the right thing not to want a president to have unlimited power under the constitutional system. We might not be under that system, and that system might not be a possibility in the future either. If we are going to a more, if we were able to kind of restore the unitary executive theory and the proper power of the president in office, and then limit the government to only the things that it was supposed to be doing, the enumerated powers, where everything else that was not directly delegated to the federal government was left to the states or to the people. Well, you would have, in one sense, a centralization of the power in the executive, which is where it's supposed to be, and then a decentralization of all the other power and some of these important aspects of decision-making capabilities to the states and to the people. And we often talk about a balance of power between the branches, but there's the balance of power between the federal government, the states, and the people that has been totally upset, where it's just the federal government with all the power now.
Do you think that we're any closer to that model? Because if we think where we're going is that model, we'd assume Trump is trying to take us there too. Do you see where we are now versus a year ago, since we're almost at the anniversary of Trump's inauguration? Are we closer to that form of government now than we were before?
I actually would say that, yes, we are. And I think that we can see, and it's not to say that that it's already operative. It might be in some sense, but the people are certainly beginning to understand more about where we came from and demand more of those things. We see progress on issues like taxes, like stripping back of power from the global regime, reclaiming sovereignty and stuff like that. So it makes sense that we are headed back in that direction. And I see progress along those lines, actual progress and narrative progress. And when people are like, Trump's not doing the things that he promised, or when they hear us, and maybe we can lead into the blackpilling bullshit with this, when they hear us saying that, we don't agree with this or that aspect of what's happening, Trump is still moving in that direction all the time.
Yeah.
That's the direction I care about. I care about a war against the global regime. I don't care about arresting the deep state who are in all these stories. I mean, it's nice when that stuff happens, but ultimately our war is not against Democrats. I don't care about winning the midterms. I care about defeating that global entity and stripping back the power from that, taking it back for the people, taking it back for the states. And I do see us making significant progress in that direction. But again, if the people are going to take back the power, they have to be able to understand what that means. And so it's a learning process as we head in that direction.
Yeah, and it's not a passive role either. I liked what Ghost said earlier. I think he was quoting the Russian Times guy, but he's like, what Trump has really done is just turn down the volume so everybody can kind of like actually see and listen to what's going on. And that really clicked for me. I see that. Like that is, it's the exposure phase, right? Like that's what we were waiting for. We want everybody to wake up, and it's about the normies, all those things. We've been using those excuses for a long time. I'm over those excuses. But when it's phrased like that, I really like that. Which brings us to the black pill topic, because for whatever reason, and I guess I would say I know the reasons, but there's especially since Dan Bongino came back online, but even though that isn't who I specifically am talking about here, there's this, the black pill phrase has been weaponized, I think, against people who don't cheerlead for everything. And I think it's already losing its steam a little bit. They've almost like desensitized us to the word now, because anytime anybody questions anything, isn't in lockstep. Oh, black pillar, you're a black pillar, you're a black pillar. It's like the new racist, you're a racist. You're okay. Well, what does it even mean anymore? We're all racist. I guess it's awesome. It's been really prevalent lately, especially because the day we announced that General Quas is starting his new show, and I think it was Bernie Bright who said he's like the ultimate white pillar. We get all these rash of accusations towards us about being black pillars, and Shipwreck, I think, was among them. And I just think those are all fakes. And I want to get your opinion on this and start a little discussion on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to point out is that, like, I don't think, and I think our audience would agree with this, I don't think that we would have chosen this path, which is a considerably more difficult one to go down if you intend to try to have a successful business talking about current events and the state of the world in the online space, which is, highly competitive. People are just trying to beat each other out for dominating the attention of internet strangers, trying to get clicks, trying to get engagement, trying to figure out how to make money out of those things. The easiest way to do that is by attempting to engage in the viral events of each day, saying something particularly clever or edgy or whatever else, and then trying to play games to get the attention of bigger accounts, whether they're slightly bigger or much, much bigger, so that they will help you increase your ability to gain attention. That's the growth strategy. Okay. That's the money strategy. And you can watch it play out all the time. If you see people go totally against that strategy, knowing that it's going to hurt them in all of those business related senses, well, then you should understand that they're going down, intentionally going down a more difficult path. You don't go down more difficult paths intentionally unless you are optimistic long-term about where that path is leading. So you cannot possibly be a black pillar while you are engaged in a much harder quest. Okay. So the guys that just sit there, like heating up an old Q post in the microwave every day.
Along with their Hot Pockets.
Yeah, exactly. And then telling everybody how everything's going according to plan. What plan? They don't know, but we're going to get the enemy. Trump's taking it to the deep state. Ask these people, go in their comments and ask them, please define who the enemy is. Be specific. Okay. Have an idea who the enemy is. Is it Democrats? Is it the deep state? If you can't say more than that, then you don't know who the enemy is. All right. And so, you know, ask them, by the way, ask them what the truth is and where truth comes from.
Ask them what the plan is.
Ask them what the plan is. Ask them any of these things. Ask them what full control means.
But guess what you're going to get when you ask these questions? They're going to call you a black pillar.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're not just cheerleading. And it's so groveling and it's so statist because they're saying these guys have everything under control. It is our job to support them. And that's it. Don't learn anything. Don't figure out how to be activated in your communities. Don't understand how our government is supposed to work. Don't demand anything because they have your demands already taken care of. Just support them. Okay, well, what about when they're gone? Who do we support then? Whoever their replacements are. And we're going to be told those things from Fox News and the rest of it. So, but my point is, you cannot be going down this path without being optimistic about where it leads. And it's not like we've ever said anything that is anti-Donald Trump in any way, you know. And here's another, and I'm sorry to like going on about this.
That's why I want you to say it.
But Donald Trump might not be doing the thing that these people think he's doing, right? He might be doing something very similar with a few changes here and there, or he might be doing something very different that they are not able to recognize. And it's some of that stuff is stuff that we've been talking about now for many years, that there are other things going on besides just Donald Trump's at war with the deep state. Okay, well, again, what does that mean? But let's say Trump is doing other things and he actually wants the people to have discussions that will wake them up to the purposes of the founding and the discussions that the founders were having and how our system isn't exactly what we were told it was. All of these things that Donald Trump is waking us up to, some of those things might be the point in a given issue. And the only way to get to that point is by pointing out, as you were this week, that we don't actually want regime change wars. So they'll come say, well, what are you, blackpilling? You're going against Donald Trump? No, the point of Trump doing these things is so that we get to this other point where there aren't regime wars. So you saying we're not supposed to have regime wars is actually totally in line with Trump, where their support of the neocon agenda is not in line with Trump at all. So if anything, they are blackpilling and taking the side of neocons. And of course, we just have to pretend that the things that they're saying make sense.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I see it as a form of, you know, they're trying to basically censor us, but they're not. They don't want to respond to anything really. They don't want to engage in the actual topic or debate that's ahead of people. Like, we pose questions. Shipwreck, she's you know, she's kind of a loose cannon, which I love about her, but she's like, she says it as it is how she's feeling. Like, she's very authentic, and not everything she says is like agreeable to most people. But I don't think she's blackpilled. If she was blackpilled, she wouldn't be doing what she's doing. She's doing it because she wants and sees potential for a future where we win, just like we all do. We wouldn't be doing this if we thought it was like not possible to get to the other side of this. You know what I mean? So it's just such a stupid comment to be making. But yeah, if you want to be called a blackpiller, just go ask any of those people to define what they're actually talking about, or what the plan is, or the goal, or anything, or get them to actually engage with you in a debate about an opposing viewpoint. You're blackpilled.
Yeah.
You're not
And I
welcome
mean,
here.
that's a form of gatekeeping.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the method that they use to protect the gate is essentially just the communist struggle session. They are getting as many people as they can to direct their anger at a certain person or certain group of people. And that is supposed to bully them into silence. It's supposed to destroy their reputations until they shut up. And it's all good. I mean, go ahead and do it, but like, recognize what it is.
Yeah. I think that's all I had on that topic.
I'm not a big fan of gatekeeping. I think that people should be able to talk about whatever the hell they want. And it's really funny to me. We talked about this for a minute a few weeks ago, but it's funny that people who imagine themselves as like truthers or sovereign and free thinkers or whatever it might be are like, we can't talk about that. That's something that everybody knows it's the one way. Don't even think about it being the other way, or else you're stupid. And it's like, okay, well, tell me how you directly know that it's the one way. And they'll never have an answer for that. It's only that everybody knows that. And all the experts know that. And then they'll tell you that there's this proof and this proof and this proof. But they'll never tell you that they have direct knowledge. They'll never actually be able to support the opinion on their own, except pointing to things that don't actually prove the thing they're saying. So, talk about everything, have your own ideas and express them.
Yeah, exactly. And if we welcome disagreement here, as long as it's good faith. You come in trolling and being a douchebag, we're going to probably ban you. But we like people who disagree earnestly. Those are the best ones. Badlands Media Fan says, can anyone reach a more enlightened state of awareness without being discontented and asking questions? That's blind faith, in my opinion.
Yep.
Spot on. Ghost says that we are the pirate ship of the movement. We want the Badlands flag to instill fear in those who see it coming.
I like
we
that.
can swap it out for a Russian flag if the Coast Guard gets too close. All right, man. How do you feel about wrapping it up? Unless there's
whatever works.
I think. God, there was one other topic I thought of while you were talking and I forgot about it. We could discuss the new fraud AG that they're putting in place. I think it's kind of silly.
I think it's kind of silly too.
What they're going after is a crime that's been around for a long time, the fraud crime. And we've had lots of AGs who apparently none of them could do their job. The Congress couldn't do their job and how they spend the money. Multiple people, didn't do their job. So adding another government position is going to fix the problem that the government created and allowed to take place.
Yeah, it's always the system's solution to all of the system's problems are more system.
Yeah, it's so gay. And everybody's like, oh, yes, the new fraud AG. We're going to get them this time, boys. Sure we are.
are. I don't know what that means or what that's for or what it's possibly going to do.
I don't know either. Let's get to the rants. Reminder that we did put the tickets on sale for GART in Nashville. So if you haven't yet, go to the website, badlandsmedia.tv/events. Click on Nashville and get yourself some tickets before they sell out. I know we got a lot of VIP seekers down in the Nashville area. We got a lot of Badlanders down that way. So it should be a good event. Looking forward to it. I think, Chris, I'm going to do a Rumble Studio ad too.
Nice.
While we're here, let's do Rumble Wallet. All right. They can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Not sure how that's possible, but I'm sure we'll have to look it up later. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That is power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer, and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middleman, no cancel button. This wallet is yours forever. And actually, I love that idea of the gold blockchain like that.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's really cool. Anyway, thank you, Rumble Wallet. Thank you, Rumble Studio. Thank you guys in the audience. Get your Rumble Wallet, guys. And make sure you test the Bitcoin donation feature to see if it's working. Badlands boosts. Chris, how are you liking your only Substack now?
It's I think it's great. So, but that's just me. I think that social media is like brain pollution, and I want to be outside of that. So
I feel brain polluted tonight, so you might be right.
I don't think this qualifies as social media, but
well, the chat I would say does. I'm on social media in the background. I have started to post more notes on Substack. I'm going to try to get back in the game over there.
yeah, it's I don't know. I like the platform. I like that it's quiet and that the people who are engaging are actually engaged. You know,
Yeah.
I've spent 5 straight years, well, more than that actually, but dealing with a nonstop onslaught of trolls and bots and retards. And, you know, and there's good people too. there's nice people on both. There's very fine people on both sides. But yeah, why not have a quieter environment where I'm actually working directly for the people who support the work?
Yeah, it's a great idea, man. Great idea. And that's why we're trying to get a little more active with you know, what we do is on Badlands on Substack. And I think the show that Ghost and BB did, I'm going to try to watch tomorrow. I heard it was pretty good, though. All right. We have a couple boosts. 1027JS says, hi, guys, for $20. Thank you, Joe. Hi back to you. Hope all is well. And then we got Ali Stussy for $25 says, are first principles universal or are they individually determined? What would you say are your first principles and how do you use them to discern or assess events or narratives in the mind war?
I would say that I think maybe there's a little mix up of terms there. It's not about moral principles. It's about scaling everything back to its axiomatic roots, the things that are self-evident or deducible from direct knowledge or logic or whatever. You go back to the very building blocks of an idea and make sure that you are on sound foundations all the way up. And that's why it's, you know, difficult for people to kind of just come to that approach, stepping into the show in the audience for the first time and understanding what in the world it is I'm doing, other than telling them that all the stuff they saw on television during the week is clearly wrong. But you go back to what you actually can know, and you make sure to be diligent and honest about using only the things that you can know to build out your analysis and your opinions. And when there's a question about whether or not you can know a certain thing, to be honest about that question and then deal with the possibilities when it could be 1 out of 5 different answers, and there's a 30% probability on one and a 20% probability on one and a 10% probability on one, so on. You actually have to account for all of these things as you build that analysis out, so you know which pieces of the foundation are shaky. And if that piece, if information comes out that destroys that possibility, well, then you eliminate that. You stay with what with the solid foundation that you have remaining, and then you continue to build from there. And, you know, again, anytime you're not at that foundational level and you are analyzing from there, well, all of these things are questionable at that point. They're all theories, right? And so people think that a news story, even knowing that news is fake, they think that a news story, the things that are said in a news story are facts. And on those facts, they can build their analysis. Well, there's no actual basis to know that those things are facts. And because you can't know that they're facts, well, you can't treat them as facts in your argument. They're still just unknowns. They're information among other information. They're things told to you by known liars. So to treat them as facts is an obvious mistake. So it's just about like going all the way down to the axiomatic roots, to the foundation, and building only on the stuff that you can actually defend.
Yeah, I think people have a hard time doing that, though, man. I mean, I try to do it, and I have a hard time doing it. Like not looking at everything you're seeing, especially when you consume so much of it all the time.
Yep.
It's hard to live by that approach. Kind of get beaten down a little bit. But thank you for the boost and great comments, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Keith Higgins, the whole Venezuela incursion seems like an attack on British control, and even BP with Guyana. Is the U.S. going to be the world's gas and oil police, sending the Brits and their corrupt Caribbean home? Maybe not the world's, but at least the Western hemispheres, sounds like. Old School 69.
BP, by the way, it's worth noting, is one of the energy companies that was sponsoring the International Crisis Group at the time of that Venezuela report.
That's right. And they were at the meeting too, weren't they, with Trump?
I don't know if BP was there, and I actually meant to try to get a list of the companies that were there today. I think it was BP and Shell, and then an Italian oil company called Eni, I think, were the ones that were there.
I did see it was Tucker Carlson was at the meeting.
Yeah, and I guess Donald Trump gave him a pair of brown wingtips or something as well. He seems to be giving shoes to a lot of people.
I've
heard that story before.
It sounds like, I don't know if this is AI, but ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, Continental Resources, Halliburton, Valero, Marathon, Shell, Repsol, Eni, Trafigura, and no BP.
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
Yep.
All right. Old School 69, great show, guys. John, here's a tasteful photo I created to advertise a future GART panel. This is a pretty good photo. Devolution Power Black Pill Symposium. Get your tickets today. Thank you, Old School. Keith Huggins, I'm still trying to disseminate the red folder signal. Didn't it originate with 2,000 Mules, so it sends election signal? Are we getting more Indian smoke signal from Dinesh now? I don't know what Dinesh is doing. And I thought the red folder was from, everybody was like, oh, that's it. That's the, whatever plan he put in place in the red folder on January 6th. He's just carrying around with him on his person, flinging it everywhere. Yeah, I don't think there's anything to it. That was a speech. Pretty sure, probably.
Ghost just noted that BP was the is also the oil company that was thrown out of Iran in 1952 by Mossadegh.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Who's been thrown out of more countries, Israel or BP?
And are they the same?
Yeah, even better question. TamJ1116 says, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Whoops, guys. Oh, I was. Wrong screen, though. In INW Badlanders meetup January 17 at 10 a.m. at Country Boy Cafe in Athol, Idaho, followed by a tour of Tamarack Gardens. Ooh, that sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Thank you for the rant. And I wish I could go to that. When is that? January 17th? A week from today. Cool. RT Joan for $10. Thanks for another great show. John, your new background is very nice. God bless. Thank you, RT Joan. ZBM, John, where are you? That is not your normal background. I just turned my desk around. It's just the wall that I was looking at for like 3 years. I figured you guys would want a chance to look at it too. And then Team Smooth, mad about Maduro at Chris's Substack is fire, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, most of his stuff is. I highly encourage you guys to subscribe over there. And you're working on another one, aren't you?
On another Substack?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I almost had one finished like 2 weeks ago, and I don't know. Sometimes it's like a timing thing.
Sure. Cool. Well, man, I think that's all we got. What do you want to do for an outro?
Wait, didn't we already decide on the video for the outro? That you edited?
Yeah. Yeah, I did play it as the outro on Only Lance this night too.
Oh,
but
man.
we had way less of an audience than we do now, so we'll play it here.
Okay.
If you want to add any commentary before we do it.
I just think that this is the smartest. Yeah, you said it.
The smartest Cernovich has ever sounded.
It looks like he's very, very ill.
Dude, I fast forwarded through this interview, and like I saw on the thing in the bottom when they were talking about ayahuasca or whatever. So like, well, that sounds interesting. He spent like 20 minutes going back and forth with himself, walking Tucker through his high experience. And like, so that's why I flipped the screen or whatever on this to make it look like he was talking to himself, because he was literally doing this. It was insane. It was
Tucker's
insane.
trying to become Joe Rogan.
I don't know what Tucker's doing, but Tucker was like shocked. That's why I added him at the end too. That was like his face the whole time. It was so funny. Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up. Stick around Badlands. Give us a follow here. I am going to play a game tomorrow. Probably that horror game with Zach. We'll see what happens, but that'll probably be early afternoon. I'll let you guys know. But thanks, Chris, as always. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm still alive. What's your name? Like, I'm Mike Cernovich, and I'm in this place. I'm on this mat. how'd you get here? And I got dropped off. And then I walked in here and I saw this person. Came in here to drink your tea selfishly. And when I drank the tea, you don't give a shit. You know, you drink the tea and you just kind of like look around, okay, I think that's a mistake. There was a staff with 2 serpents moving around, just like flowing through them. Where am I? Oh, I'm Mike Cernovich. I'm in this room. Okay, cool. Close eyes. Wake up. Bees. And then Mike Cernovich. Where am I? Close my eyes. Wake up. I'm where am I? But I go, where am I? Wake up. You're here and I'm walking around, la la la. I'm in the spirit world. When you go into the spirit world, what the fuck? Dead. You can't run. What am I running from? You're running from yourself. Close my eyes. Wake up. You're trying to run from yourself and you can never run from yourself. Close my eyes. You come back up. Time loop. A demon I'm still alive. You know, I would do math. What the fuck? The only way out's through. I go, fuck yourself. The only way out's through. What kind of shit is that? The only way out's through. What the fuck does that mean? Oh, you're in like a new scene. And then it would show me the house I grew up in. Why am I being shown my house? It's like small, shitty house. I hated it. You had all the love in the world in that house. This is not supposed to be this way. Your dad loved you. This is not how it's supposed to be. Your mom loved you. They did the best that they could do. It's not supposed to be this way. But it's like you took the love for granted. This is not how it's supposed to be. You had all this love, but you didn't have money. See this? It was like the scream of an enraged mom. What do you need? What do you need me for? You know, it takes years to put all this together and everything. Let's get you to Mexico. You know, let's get you to Peru. Then I saw a old woman's face on a mountain. You are not more manly than Marcus Capone or DJ Shipley or fuck. You know, so like, because you wanted to take the ride, you know, you want to take the ride, but everybody be okay. Like the arrogant prick that you are, and I'm dead now, and it's like too late. How was I so foolish? How was I so foolish? Oh yeah, I got things figured out, man. Like I got things figured out, and I can prove it. Eyes closed. And I wake up, and then I'm like puking in a bucket, like dead. There is no I. Dead.